Hi, and welcome to Airplane Arms Navigating Back to School. I'm Lisa Miller. I'm a communications specialist with the Anchorage School District. We're just days away from January 19th, and we are joined today with Marty Lang, who is a director in secondary education. And Marty's going to join us today to talk about what that will look like for students in secondary grades. Welcome, Marty.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good, good. Thanks for joining us.
You bet.
So let's talk about, first of all, there's going to be roughly about 25% of secondary students coming back to buildings on the 19th. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, you bet. I guess I'd like to start with saying it's been an interesting year in education, and I really want to give a shout out to our teachers. Since August, they have done an amazing job in the secondary realm, in our middle schools and our high schools, really building their capacity to deliver online instruction in an engaging way. They've learned a whole new set of tools, a whole new environment, and really have grown their capacity to do that well. And our students too have done an amazing job of figuring out this new normal and how to navigate this landscape academically from home. But we also know that as much success as we've seen with our teachers and our students, there are some of our secondary students who haven't done particularly well in this online environment. So starting January 19th, our intent this quarter is to bring some students back in small groups to all of our middle schools and high schools to try to better serve their needs. And so in second quarter, our schools really started looking at the data from first quarter to see who was successful and who wasn't. And then they continued to track students through their second quarter progress. And by early December, they have identified those students who really weren't successful in this online environment. So they looked at really prioritizing which students we would want to come back for this small group opportunity based on that data. So they looked at seniors who might be at risk of not graduating. They looked at 8th graders in our middle schools who are matriculating up to high school next year, who may have gaps in their foundational learning that's going to really not set them up well to be successful in high school. They looked at students who failed 2 or more classes first semester as an indicator. They looked at kids who have not had any history of failing classes but suddenly failed one as maybe an indicator that there was something in their home environment that wasn't conducive to online learning. Maybe they didn't have good Wi-Fi connectivity that they could count on, or a quiet place to study. And so really inviting those students back into the building January 19th, so we can hopefully provide them a better environment and more support so that they can find success. We also looked at students who had inconsistent or non-existent attendance, and hope that this maybe was an opportunity to re-engage them in their learning.
Yeah, thanks, Marty. And just like how in the springtime we really had to rethink how we do school, now that we're entering back into buildings, it's going to be very different. It's not going to be how it was 10 months ago. So can you give us a little bit of insight into what a day will look like for the secondary students returning?
Yeah, I guess we'll start talking a little bit about what their learning will look like. A lot of our students who've been learning exclusively online will have the opportunity to come back into a classroom and receive instruction face-to-face from a teacher in that content area. Because of the complexity of schedules at middle schools and high schools and the number of elective options that we offer, some students will continue to Zoom synchronously with their teachers when they return to the building, but they'll do so in an environment where they can count on that connectivity, and they also have additional adult supports and supervision in that room to provide some of the tutoring support around those classes to help them find success. We also have a lot of new kind of safety protocols that will be in place to make sure that that's a safe environment for staff and students to navigate when they return to the building.
Thank you. And for those students who are returning, we know that there's going to be a lot of changes. So where can families go to find more information about just literally getting out the door and what they need to think through for the first time?
Yeah, no, if I was a parent right now, I think I would have a lot of questions about that. And I think it's important to really think about that before students return. So the first thing that I would direct them to is any communication coming from their student's school. right? That's always going to be the most specific and the most timely information. So all of our middle schools and high schools are sending communications out this week to those students that they've invited back. So I would encourage parents to check their email inbox, to check the school's website for specific information. But all of our schools have also spent the last couple of quarters putting together really comprehensive health and safety plans that now live on our district website. And so any family that wants to go and review those can learn lots of information about those safety protocols. Everything from where do I drop off my student?
Right.
Can they ride the bus? Are they going to be fed? How are they going to move in the halls between classes? How might a classroom environment look different? So there's a lot of detailed information on those health and safety plans. So I would really direct parents to take a good look at those. In those health and safety plans, there is a link to our transportation webpage. So any students who are returning on January 19th who are going to ride the bus, I would encourage families to go to that link, type in their address, and just confirm their pickup location and their pickup time.
Okay.
So that's all ready to go. And then there's also information in those health and safety plans about student nutrition and the meals that they'll provide for those students who are returning. And so just to touch on that briefly, we are going to be providing a breakfast, a snack, and a lunch to all those students who return.
Okay.
And they will pick those up at the beginning of the day at a distribution site on campus when they arrive, and they can consume that breakfast in their first period class. There's a dedicated snack period built into the day, and there'll be a brown bag lunch that students will get in the morning as well that they can either consume during the day, or because it's a little bit shorter academic day than our normal school year, they could also take home and eat in the afternoon if they're not hungry at that time.
Okay, so lots of different little changes to the daily schedule, and it sounds like the best resources are really direct emails from your school, and then we also have on the district website, it's asdk12.org/back in school, and that has links to transportation, student nutrition, and the school mitigation plans that you mentioned. So all that great information can be found on our website also.
Yep. And if you're having difficult finding an answer to a specific question through any of those resources, as always, pick up the phone and call the school, and we'll get you to the right person to get you an answer for that question.
Those front desk staff are super helpful.
Yep. And we want to make sure that families feel prepared and they've had good conversations with their students so they know what to expect when they return.
Right. And then, so speaking of returning and what to expect, let's talk about some different things that you might want to bring with you, what to pack in your backpack.
Yeah, boy, it's been a long time since people have thought about sort of those school day routines, right? So a couple of reminders, right? In our health and safety plans, all staff and students will be required to wear a mask just like we are today when they come into the building. So we'd encourage students to find a mask that's comfortable and fits them well and that they're able to wear for the full day. On our health services webpage, there's information about what masks are okay and what things may not be okay. So if families have specific questions, there's lots of information there. If a student can obtain a mask or forgets their mask, the schools will also have some disposable ones on hand that kids can use during the day. So that's the number one thing that I would point to.
Yep.
It's also important for students to think about if they've checked out a Chromebook from the district that they've been using for their online classes, to make sure that they bring that with them, because there will be still some online connectivity for all of our classes, even if the majority of the instruction is face-to-face.
Okay.
A lot of the content will still be housed in Canvas. So students will access assignments that way, they'll submit assignments that way, there might be readings and links that they're directed to. So if they have a district Chromebook, we encourage them to bring that with them. If they haven't checked out a Chromebook from the district, we will have those available in the school for any student who needs one. Also encourage them to bring a water bottle. As part of our health and safety plans, we've shut down a lot of the public gathering places, the things that are used by lots of different people and have high touch points. So one of those things that we've turned off is our water fountains. So we want to make sure students can stay hydrated. So bringing a filled up water bottle each day is important. And then also, if they're not going to pick up a snack or lunch from our student nutrition department, we will have those breaks during the day built in for them to have a brain break and to eat something. So encourage them to bring, a snack or a lunch to consume during the day.
So some things stay the same, or snacks, hydration. It's all kind of the same things, but just a different way of doing it. And
Yep.
the masks are definitely not new, not new anymore. But
I think most of us have grown accustomed to
Right.
them being out in public, but it'll be new in the school for a lot of kids. And then having a backpack, having a bag that they can put those items in and carry with them is important too, because we are not going to be doing lockers this year.
Okay, that's good to know. So once they get to the building, will there be a health screening on site, or how will that work?
We ask our staff to do a health screening when they arrive on campus each day, but we're not requiring that for students. But having said that, it is very important for parents to have conversations with their students. And thinking about that list of COVID-19 symptoms that I think a lot of us have seen in different places, if students are exhibiting any of those symptoms, no matter how mild, we really want parents to have, keep their students home that day and really reduce the potential of anybody arriving on campus with COVID-19 and potentially having secondary transmissions in our schools.
Yeah, we've been using the term keep ASD symptom free,
Yep,
and so
exactly.
that's really the goal, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and let's talk about that health screening for parents and guardians to do at home. There's a picture of the flyer behind us. You can find this again at the ASD K-12 website, but walk me through what's on there and what questions families should be asking.
Right, so you'll see that list of symptoms. And so just making sure that your student is symptom-free before you send them to school. If they do have any of those, there's information about, okay, how quickly are those resolving? Is it now safe to send them back? And so just kind of walking through that process on a regular basis. And I know that teenagers, especially our high school kids, they're pretty independent. They often get themselves up in the morning. They get going, they get their own breakfast, they pack themselves out their door. They're maybe even driving to school, and they may have very little or no interaction with their parents in the morning. But we are asking parents to be a little bit more engaged with them just to make sure that they're pausing to ask these questions before they send their student to school.
Yep, for sure. And so what about shifting gears a little bit to the other 75% of students who are going to remain in that online environment until the next quarter? Will online learning remain the same generally for that group?
Yeah, for that group, it really is going to look exactly the same as it has the last 2 quarters, right? Their schedule may have changed for quarter 3, but they're still online. They're still doing synchronous lessons 4 days a week from home. And then they have that asynchronous Wednesday built in.
Okay, perfect. Anything else that you wanted to add?
We're using these small groups coming back in January to provide supports for a group of kids that we know really need it. We're also using this as an opportunity to start a phased approach of getting all students back in. And our hope is that after spring break, 4th quarter, we'll have the ability to bring all of our middle and high school students back. And so we're going to learn a lot over the next couple of months. We're going to really test our mitigation plans. We feel pretty confident in them, but we will continue to tinker with them and make sure that we're providing a safe environment even in these very unique times.
Yep. Well, Marty, thank you so much for popping in to join us. I know you're super busy, and good luck next week. Have a great week back to learning in person. And thank you for tuning in to Airplane Arms Navigating Back to School. All the resources that we discussed on this episode can be found at asdk12.org.
Thanks, Lisa.